Okay, so I'm going to click on, well, I can't click on it because it won't let me, but,
Then you highlight it.
and I highlight it, so it's HT login, is that service equals blah, blah, and that, all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's the whole link. You have to
Oh,
copy
dear.
everything, correct?
Okay, let me see.
Can you retell me where on BC Central I'm supposed to go? I didn't have any volume for the past 10 minutes.
It's in the shortcuts.
Don't let me do that.
Shortcuts, okay.
I'm going to go back into, I'm going to go back into,
Mhm.
do what I usually do to get into that link.
Faculty elections.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's,
but I'm
yeah,
trying
this
to
is it.
get to that.
Dr. Langston, we
Dr.
have-
Langston, we're live.
I'm going to
Thank
have to
you.
minimize.
We are live on YouTube. You're all getting your debut.
Good.
Oh,
If I could just get into Web Central, but it's not letting me in yet.
And we have 87.
Okay, I'm going to log into that. Okay, I'm trying to sign into Web Central. Once I do that, I'm okay. But it's not letting me do it.
very slow. Logging in took me a minute or two before it reacted.
Yeah, that's why I sent direct link. So
I'm
that
good.
you can pass Web Central. Correct. We have 89 responses as of now.
Okay, I'll just keep trying. Okay, here I am. Okay, so we go to shortcuts, faculty elections, access elections.
Mhm.
BC, okay, I'm going to click on attendance poll. Yes, I confirm my presence as a voting member. Yes, I can. Okay, I've done it. Gail Smith. Okay, I should be in there.
We're 2 minutes from showtime.
I've done that. Okay, so I'm in there.
Excellent.
Hopefully. it's
91.
elapsed. Okay. All done. Takes a long time to get into CUNY Central. That's that web thing, whatever that is. Takes a long time to get into that.
Yeah, well, there's about 113 people trying to get into it. At the
That's the reason, right?
We can handle more. It's just the fact that everyone is doing things remotely and in general, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it makes a
Sure.
difference. Yeah.
In general, there are many more slowdowns.
Hmm.
Well, thankfully, Brooklyn College doesn't look like being under denial of service attack today, because that could mean something. Yeah, and no tornadoes, right?
This is interesting, I must say. All right, so we have to keep going back and forth to vote for things, right? During the course of the meeting.
That's correct. I'll go through the procedure in a moment.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Yadidja, I just got a text from a colleague who said he can't get on the streaming.
From what?
He cannot get on the YouTube streaming.
Andre G, I don't know.
So the communications just retweeted the URL. The URL was incorrect, the original URL.
Oh,
Where does he get it from?
I can make it. I can make the URL public here, and it's getting retweeted right now
and I will update calendar
on our
right away.
on our BC tweet account. The one that I just put in the chat. That's the working URL.
Professor Rubin, copy that link
I will.
and mail it to them.
Okay, I was just notified that the tweet is up.
And
Okay, folks, we're going to begin. The first thing I'm going to do is mute everybody. And then we will do this very formally and we'll describe the procedure. I'm not going to allow participants to unmute themselves. Only either I or Andre G will be unmuting people, so don't get frustrated. Okay, first of all, welcome everybody to hopefully the first and last Zoom meeting of Faculty Council. Before we go any further, I want to really thank publicly both Andres, Andre G and Andre P, who put in countless number of hours trying to get this thing set up so that we meet all the legal requirements of the open meeting law, which I will describe in a moment. The first item on the agenda is the call to order, which we did. You all should have voted in two places by now. The poll, the Zoom poll that is on your screen, which I will leave running for a while so people who walk in late can still say that they're here, and also the legal poll that is on the Web Central page. Now, why are we doing this in such a bizarre way? Well, we know why we're doing it in a bizarre way because of COVID-19, but in particular, this committee and Policy Council, which has not met, are the only two committees in Brooklyn College who must follow the open meeting law. Should we not follow the open meeting law, anything that we do is challengeable in court, which in fact has happened in the past when CUNY was sued that they did not follow the legal requirements of open meeting law. Every college in CUNY was found guilty with the exception of Brooklyn College. I won't take credit for that, although I really should. So we're going to do this right. Now, the governor has waived certain provisions of the open meeting law, but not others. Not throwing around that he waived the open meeting law. It is not true. He allowed the meetings to occur by means of technology such as Zoom. He did not waive the requirement of having a quorum. He did not waive the requirement of having it recorded, as we are doing right now. He did not waive the fact that it must be open to the public. We cannot have it open to the public through this meeting, through Zoom, because then we would be Zoom bombed by other people. There would be many more than 100 and at this point 12 people. We're still anticipating a few more on the meeting, and we could not tell who's legal to vote. Therefore, we are live streaming this on YouTube. The URL has been broadcast, and anyone in the world who wants to watch the meeting can watch it. Other than that, we still have to follow the rules. Now, you're all muted. You can't unmute yourself. For those who've not become Zoom experts at this point, okay, most of us have already done this and have gone through various meetings where it's all screwed up, but we now are all experts. But if you're not, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see an icon that says participants. And if you open that icon, a window will open up on the side of your video screen, and you'll see everybody listed who is present. Each person there, in order to speak at the bottom, it says raise your hand. The only way either I or Andre will unmute you is if you raise your hand. This is a few times that I can tell my students that you better raise your hand or you're not talking. Now, there's also a chat at the bottom. If you press the chat, you get a little chat. And you can talk to each other there, but we will not pay attention to that. And it is not part of the official record. So if you have something you want to say, you raise your hand. We will recognize you in due time. We'll unmute you, and then we will mute you again. Otherwise, it's just impossible. There's too much background noise. Children, dogs, cars, and whatever else is going on in your lives. We really don't want to share that much. Okay. Roll call has been taken, so we're done with that. The next thing we have is the minutes of March 10th, 2020. These were all distributed. Okay? Unless someone raises their hand to object to this, I will consider them passed unanimously. Martha tells me that there are no corrections and that the minutes stand as they are. So I will pause. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on the minutes of March 10th, 2020? Hearing none, I will consider the minutes accepted unanimously. Martha, please take note. We now move to the steering committee. The first item on the steering committee is a very sad moment in which we remember faculty, staff, and students. There is no area of the college that has not been affected by COVID-19. We've lost dear and precious colleagues and friends, faculty members, families, student families. We're going to have to recognize them when we get back in September and do it properly. Right now, there's very little I can say. I have my own faculty member who passed away early on in this, and we're all shooken up. So let's just have a brief moment of silence just to hold the place until September, when hopefully we can do this in person. Thank you very much. The most important business of council today is item number 2. Item number 2 passes, which I hope it does. Almost nothing else has to pass. There is an issue, of course, that curriculum changes need to be made on an emergency basis. There are errors that we have found in documents. There are courses that need to be introduced because of the COVID-19 situation. Courses need to be changed. Through the usual channels, this would never get done. It would take a year, literally a year, before we could make curriculum changes. As you're probably aware, the steering committee already has the executive power that you've given the steering committee to approve graduation lists when steering cannot meet, which we have done. We do this every summer, and we have already approved the graduation list that is not on the agenda today because we just did it and we know that nobody ever challenges this. So that's done. In addition, the Committee on Course and Standing and the Graduate Parallel Committee has the authority to entertain student petitions during the summer, even when the committee doesn't meet, so that students are not held up from graduating and meeting certain requirements. We have never thought that we would also need to empower the 2 curriculum committees with similar powers. We are very, very concerned about this because the one thing that Brooklyn College is famous for, more than every other CUNY branch, is our very tight control on curriculum, okay? We do not give this power to anyone else. The provost and certain department chairs have asked, can we come up with an emergency procedure? Can we allow the administration to create new courses for an emergency? And we said no. Instead, steering is proposing the resolution regarding emergency powers for the 2 curriculum committees. Let me share the screen with you so we can look at this carefully. Give me a second. Okay. You should see on your screen now a resolution that says, whereas it occurs from time to time that the faculty council cannot act swiftly enough to ensure the academic continuity of students' academic programs. And whereas the COVID-19 situation just did that. There is a specific topic here about science courses, lectures, and lab components. They were the initiators of this motion, or of the need for this motion, but other departments needed this as well since that time. And the college needs to be as nimble as possible to respond to unforeseen demands occasioned by new circumstances and the academic needs of students. Therefore, be it resolved. This is the important part. A curriculum document may be approved with the approval of both steering and the respective curriculum committees. There's a lot of checks and balances here. On an emergency basis, for no more than a period of 1 year, which means that there's a sunset. Anything that is decided by both of these committees will, after a year's time, become null and void unless it goes through the usual process. The subject of the department submitting the course in the usual manner to the appropriate committee. Should the department wish to keep these changes for more than a year, it must then go back to faculty council in the usual fashion. Now, these emergency powers should go into effect upon the request of the provost and the approval of steering committee of faculty council. We want to make this a very high bar. We do not want departments to yell at the members of the curriculum committees. We don't want the administration to put undue pressure on the committees. So the provost has to put in a formal request to steering. If steering agrees with the provost that this is truly an emergency situation, such as COVID-19, we will then put into effect this power that gives each of the curriculum committee the power to pass something, send it to the steering committee for our agreement, and then it will go into effect for 1 year. Notice that from department's point of view, we really don't want chairs on their own to make changes, but we don't want to interfere with a department. So the department needs to go through whatever its usual manner, submit documents, whatever kind of documents the curriculum committees typically request. If they want clearance, you're going to have to contact the chair of the other department to give clearance. But once that's done and it's sent on to the respective curriculum committees, if they approve it, they will then send it to steering. If steering approves it, it goes into effect for 1 year time. Now, at this point, we have several hands up for discussion. So, Andre G, are you going to do it or me?
I can do it if you like. Just acknowledge.
Okay, so I'll acknowledge. So the first one on my list is Glenn Haas, and please mute them immediately thereafter. Glenn.
You hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
What constitutes approval by those respective committees? It must be unanimous, majority. What constitutes approval?
No changes in the committee's behavior. That is, as usual, they will require a majority of the vote to pass anything. We do not want any individual chair to make decisions on their own. You recall that students are invited to attend these meetings, but they don't constitute part of the quorum. Otherwise, it's likely that we would never get any curriculum documents done. So in the usual, they would need a majority of their committee.
Should that be specified?
No, because we don't want to change. I don't want to get into the details of what the committee needs to do. It's status quo. Whatever the committee normally needs to do, the less we say, the better.
Sure.
Thank you. Professor Shortell.
Thank you. The undergraduate curriculum committee has discussed the resolution and we are in support of it.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on this motion? Okay, hearing none, we're going to do two things. I am, number one, going to put up a poll, just as I did for attendance. And number two, you will sign in to, again, as you did for attendance on Web Central, and vote there. Andre P., are we ready?
Dr. Langsam, Tony Wilson has his hand up.
I'm sorry. Professor Wilson, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, how long would the document be considered active?
This is a you talking about this motion?
Yes.
This is a permanent motion. It will empower the committees, but it won't go into effect unless it goes through the steps: provost requesting steering determining it's a real emergency. Just as we have for the other two committees, has been in effect for quite some number of years, for a very long time. This is something we think should have been done years ago before an emergency and really should be in effect. Are there any other comments? So let me put up and this poll of attendance. Okay. Let me bring up the next poll. How come I don't have another poll? Andre G, there should be several polls here. But if not, let's just go and vote the other place. I added a whole bunch of polls. All I see is attendance poll. Maybe I have to share the results first. Everybody is here. Okay, stop sharing.
I don't believe so.
Ah, I see where it is. I never
There's
did.
a drop down there.
The pull down. Okay. So here is, you now have a poll resolution regarding curriculum committee. Vote for one, yes, no, and abstain. And I'm going to launch the polling now. I can't vote, unfortunately, here, but I will vote at the same time on the Web Central page. Okay, and we're going to return to the main election page, Andre P. Okay. This may take some time. Again, it's slow. And now we have a second poll there. You'll see under the fact the elections, emergency executive powers. Take your time. Everything is very slow, so let's not all give up. It's here. We have 91%, 91 members, 96% on the poll have voted yes. 2 people voted no and 2 people abstained. So at least I have a record of this. 3 people now abstained. It's still not coming up on the Web Central site when I click on the that particular link. Let Andre P check out to see whether it says waiting for WebSQL. Okay, it just came up by me. So everyone have patience. It says yes, no, abstain, and then submit my response, which you should see, and it'll probably take a few minutes before it accepts your response as well. So let's just wait another minute or 2 before we move on.
Yeah, just saw about 60 responses so far. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to end polling on this because I imagine that everyone who's allowed to vote has already voted. The administrators are not voting on this. So that is probably the difference between 101 and 117%. It passes overwhelmingly. And meanwhile, we're going to just check to see. It said, I got finally, thank you for submitting your response. Please stay on this page. So hopefully everybody has done that. And now we will move on to the next item on the agenda. And the next item on the agenda is simply an announcement that while we normally have an election on the floor of council for 8 candidates for nominations for the Brooklyn College Association Board, from which the president will select 2 members and 2 alternates. Okay, the BCA board, as you know, has oversight of a student activity fee, which is a lot of money. We cannot really do that here with too many nominations. So this will be run over the next week or 2 by the president's office. As she runs other elections policy council, she will ask for nominations. You'll be able to nominate people, and then she'll hold a regular election, and then she will choose 2. We now move to the Committee on Committees. Now, the first, Professor Levy, where are you? Raise your hand so we can find you. Okay, unmute Professor Levy. And there are two primary items on the agenda. The first is a standalone item on new chair for master planning. Okay, Mobina Hashimi has been the chair for many years. Mark Kobrak is now, right now, taking over as of now. And we need to have a vote to empower Professor Kobrak to be the new chair of master planning. Is there any discussion on this? If there's no discussion, no one raises their hand. I know someone pressed the button that says to me, go faster. But let's have a little patience. No one said go slower. So if I hear no one raising their hand, we'll assume that the vote is unanimous. I'll direct the secretary to submit a single vote, and Professor Kobrak becomes immediate acting chair. Not acting, acts immediately as the chair. I'm now going to bring up the latest slate of proposed list of members for 2022-21. You do not have this. What you were sent was in error, and you're getting a new slate. So let me bring that up, and then we'll look at it, and Professor Levy will talk about it. So let me a minute, find it. And let me start another share. Okay. And Professor Levy, the floor is yours.
Yes, I want to thank, first of all, Mariana Regalado and the library for helping us create and host the electronic survey that we used this year for committee service, which was very helpful. And I want to thank everyone who submitted names. And I want to apologize that the list you got was not the accurate, up-to-date list. We are still awaiting some responses from people, which is why you see it say pending. But if anybody still wants to serve, because there probably will be some openings, or has other nominations, please email me, or you can email directly to Faculty Council. Are there any questions about the slate as it is right now?
If there are no further nominations at this point, then we can immediately go to vote for this slate, with the exception of the pendings, which you don't see. Professor Gonzalez raised her hand. Andre, please recognize her.
Hi, Sharona. I just saw under the steering committee, I believe there's an error. I think it's Ken Esty who is serving in the stead of Alan Aha for this semester while Alan is on sabbatical. So I think that date needs to be changed there, but I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, you may notice that on what I'm posting and running up and down the screen, okay, there is nothing here about the steering committee. You got an error. That shit is wrong.
Right, that's the old one. I apologize.
All right, thank you.
Is the right one.
Okay.
If anyone wants to see the rest of it, I'll scroll down a little bit slower. Is there anyone else who wants to make nominations? If you wish to make more nominations, we're going to move the whole thing. We'll table the whole thing to fall because it's just too complex to accept nominations. If you are in agreement, if no one wants to nominate anyone else, we're going to vote on this slate minus the pendings. Since you don't know who they are, you clearly can't vote for those people, and they will come before you in the fall. So does anybody want to push this off, in essence, to the fall? I'd rather do this now so they can start getting to work. I'll wait another few seconds. I hear or I see no one raising their hand, in which case we'll go to a vote. Okay. Is there anyone who's going to vote against the slate or abstain? If not, we'll just consider it to be unanimous. Raise your. I see no raised hands. Therefore, I will consider this to have been approved unanimously, again, with the exception of the pendings, which will come before you again in the fall. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sharona, and please thank your committee for doing what was truly a difficult job. Okay. We now move to item number 7, report of standing committees. Professor Shortell has distributed a corrected document. All of you should have gotten that earlier in the day today. Probably a little bit too late for you to read it. I'm going to put it up there and ask Professor Shortell to please be brief and run through this document so that we can vote on it. Remember that even if there are things here in error or your favorite piece is missing, we've now given the committee the power to do this offline, which Professor Shortell, in his usual very efficient fashion, will do so, and steering will then approve it. So let's not get all hung up on this. Let me bring up that document, and I'll turn over the floor. Professor Shortell, raise your hand so they can see you and unmute you, and I will bring this up. Give me 1 second to find it. So this is the latest document as of a few hours ago. Okay. And I will scroll through this as Professor Shortell directs me to. Professor Shortell, are you on?
I am. Thank you.
What happened? Andre G, is Professor Shortell still on? Professor Shortell? I don't hear Professor Shortell. I don't know.
It appears he got disconnected.
Okay, we're gonna let him log back on, and we will do the same thing. And by the way, Professor Shortell never unmutes his video. It's always the cat. So let him know. I'm gonna stop this share, and we're gonna go to Professor Cohen, excuse me, and the graduate curriculum committee, and we'll return to Professor Shortell if and when he returns. Give me 1 moment, please, to find this document, graduate curriculum. Let me now share the screen. Unmute, Professor Cohen, raise your hand. Please unmute him. And you now should see the graduate curriculum committee. Professor Cohen?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a very simple document. The A5 section does some cleanup on the transition of departments from kinesiology to secondary education, the physical education program. Some of the courses needed to be switched to secondary ed. And then there is a reinstatement of a course in, was it early childhood education, which is very timely. And it's a course they wish to teach this summer. So it's pretty straightforward, but I'm glad to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, I don't hear any questions. We need to vote on this again, both ways, both on the local poll and on Web Central. I'm going to launch the poll, resolution, graduate curriculum document. You should see that poll in front of you. Vote for yes, no, or abstain. And similarly, Andre P, are we able to go back now to, where's Andre P?
Yeah.
There. Okay, and we can go back to Web Central. Okay, return back to the main election page, and now, lo and behold, there is a GCC committee for you to choose. Oh, it's getting faster. And vote yes, no, or abstain, and submit your vote. And my page showed that it was accepted, the election. Stay on that page. And on our poll here, we have 99 of 117 people have voted, which I imagine is most of the faculty. 99 people have voted yes, no no's, and 2 abstentions. We will consider this document to be passed. Professor Cohen, thank you, and thank your committee for an unbelievable amount of work under very trying conditions. So I'm going to end the polling. 101 people voted. Anyone else want to vote, just to get on the record? Nobody else? Okay, we end the polling for this. Is Professor Shortell back on?
No, he doesn't appear to be.
Okay, so in that case, we'll move to the next item of the agenda, which is the Committee on General Education, and which they are submitting a resolution on defining general education. Okay, the white paper was shared with you at the last meeting. I'm going to share the resolution with you now. Give me a moment to find that. Let's see, Gen Ed. I'm going to share the screen with you. Please, Professor Troyansky, raise your hand so they can unmute you. Do you see Professor Troyansky? I was
unmuted?
Yes, he's here.
Okay, yes.
Good. And we hear you. Go.
Very good. Okay, let me preface it by saying my connection has been kind of dodgy, and if somehow I get disconnected in the same land that Tim Shortell is in, I noticed that Jonathan Nissenbaum and Mika Tomkiewicz are both in the meeting, and if necessary, they can speak for the committee. Maybe somebody else is here too, but those are the 2 I've seen.
Thank you.
Let me say that we repeated the white paper that actually went back to December. There was a draft of the motion that went out in March. We've since tweaked it, but essentially I think we should, let me, here's the resolution. Shall I read it or everyone just read it?
Sees it on the screen, unless you want to highlight some of the points that you want to make there.
Okay, I'll just say that we've been, this was based upon a lot of meetings of the committee. We wanted to find a better way of doing our work and consulting with the departments and with programs. And so I'll read it. Whereas Brooklyn College, having accommodated CUNY pathways in its general education curriculum, while nonetheless reaffirming its own commitment to liberal arts education. And whereas the General Education Committee must make judgments over actual course submissions and their appropriateness to general education. And whereas the general education curriculum reaches beyond the purview of any single school in the college. And whereas a balance must be struck across departments in general education course offerings. And whereas general education courses should avoid prerequisites wherever possible, and whereas many study abroad courses seem to satisfy the learning objectives of the intercultural competency, ICC, be it resolved that henceforth, when departments submit proposals for the general education curriculum, including college option, they clarify what makes those courses appropriate for general education. That in the cell currently reserved for special features on the submission form, you've seen this, you've used it over and over again. There is a box which almost no one ever uses, but there is that box, that cell, where they can answer the question, what makes this course suitable for general education? Be it also resolved that beginning for fall semester 2020, at the latest, the parties discussed in the above section on distribution, that is chairs, coordinator, committee, confer to implement the recommendations. This is an attempt to collaborate among ourselves, directly between the committee and the coordinator and chairs. Be it also resolved that prerequisites be removed from existing general education courses wherever possible. Be it also resolved that study abroad courses that are acceptable for Brooklyn College credit be considered for ICC credit by the coordinator and the committee.
Is there any discussion? Please raise your hand so you can be recognized. Professor Preston raised his hand. Please recognize him.
Just a quick question. Does any of this apply to STEM alternative gen ed courses?
Good question. I don't think we actually thought about that in connection with this motion. We had been handling that ourselves. I think in the spirit of the motion, we would want to hear about those courses that are being planned for the next semester or year. And so that those course proposals for the year would be discussed by the appropriate chairs and by the coordinator and committee.
Okay, we have two individuals who have raised their hand. Let's see. Mr. Nissenbaum, please unmute him.
Yeah, hi. Just in response to the last question, actually, David, we did discuss that. That came up at one of the meetings. And in as much as the for the Gen Ed submission forums from regarding STEM alternatives do come to the Gen Ed committee, we did want to require that as well.
Okay, thanks for reminding me.
Thank you. Professor Lipke, can you unmute him? Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
we hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. This applies to new courses, I assume. Does it also apply to existing courses?
It applies to new courses. The committee discussed whether we should go back and cover everything that's already in the curriculum, and we thought that was just too much at this point. But that whenever there is a review of the existing curriculum, we expect these items to be taken into consideration. But no, we did not want to go back at this point and look at everything that's already there. That's it's grandfathered in.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this? Okay.
Professor Shortell is back.
Okay, hold them off. Tell him, Professor Shortell, we'll get to you as soon as we finish this one. I'm just have to create a new poll for this. I'm just gonna call it the Gen Ed poll, because I did not have a poll for this. Gen Ed poll. And again, The answer is yes, no, abstain. So I'm going to save this poll, and now I'm going to launch this poll. Here too, you will have to vote in both places. You should see the poll in front of you. Vote yes, no, or abstain. And also move to Web Central. And return to the main election page. Okay, the Web Central is still hanging up there. This point, 118 people have voted. I assume those are all the legal voters, and 97 people, 96% have voted yes. There are no no's, and there are 4 abstains. And now you can also vote on the Web Central. This will take a few minutes. Okay, I'm going to end the poll, and I'm going to consider this motion passed. And if some of you who just came up now, you can vote on the Web Central. It does take some time. There's a lag. Okay, and we can now move back to Professor Shortell. Are you there, Professor Shortell? Raise your hand so we can find you. Okay, please recognize.
Yes, I'm back. Sorry about that.
That's quite okay.
Lost my internet connection.
I want to bring up your document. Hold on 1 minute.
Okay.
Give me a second. And I am going to now share this document with you. And Professor Shortell, the document is in front of you, and I can move this to where you'd want me to. And everybody who has a question,
Sure.
Raise their hand. Go ahead, Professor Shortell.
Yeah, as I started to say, we postponed all of the new submissions. So everything in this document is something that was before the committee before, and just a series of corrections, course numbers, making sure the residency rule was correct. The 3 new courses in section A4 are courses that the committee already approved and should have appeared in an earlier curriculum document, but were inadvertently left out. So we wanted to include them because we had in fact already approved them. So any new submissions, the committee has them. They're on our Blackboard group, and we'll take those up again in September. So this is just really sort of bookkeeping to make sure we make all of the corrections that we need to.
Are there any questions, Professor Shortell? Please raise your hand. It seems that, Professor Shortell, you did an excellent job and no one has any questions. I am launching the poll so that people may vote on this document. You should all see the poll before you, and you should be able to return back to Web Central to vote on Web Central. And this way we'll cover all of our bases. (101 of 109 people have voted. It seems to be all voting members. 100 voted yes. 2 abstain. So I will consider this motion to have passed, and I will end the polling. Please continue to vote on Web Central. Okay. So in that case, we have concluded the voting on this. And other people may be a little lag, so just keep an eye on it. We now can move to old business. I'm not aware of any old business. Does anyone know of any old business? Raise your hand. We now move to new business. Before we move to new business, I will open the floor for discussion. I will recognize the president first. She asked for the courtesy of speaking first under new business. When we adjourn the meeting, which will be the item after our new business, I will end this meeting, which means it will stop being recorded and the YouTube will turn off. The president has sent out invitations on her own for another meeting to follow this one. And you are, of course, all welcome, if you've gotten such an invitation, to join that meeting. So let's move on to new business. Can you please recognize the president? Unmute the president, please. Okay.
Thanks so much, Yadidja. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to each of you at this time. I want to address what I consider a core governance issue. There's been a lot of back and forth with faculty members, chairs, deans, others, and a core governance issue has arisen that I think bears dialogue at the faculty council meeting, and that is a concern about a lack of collaboration, the allegation that there's been a lack of collaboration with the faculty in making potential budgetary decisions here. This is a governance issue. I care very deeply about shared governance. I have a deep commitment to it and to consultation with the faculty. As you know, structurally, the master planning committee of this body is charged with representing the faculty on all budgetary matters. Under our bylaws, master planning, quote, considers the budgetary policy of the college, particularly in effect of budgetary decisions on the academic program, end quote. As such, it functions in, quote, an advisory role in the formation of the fiscal policy of the college, end quote. However, we in the administration did not simply meet with master planning and proceed with budgetary changes. Instead, we worked through the chairs, with the chairs, and the heads of departments and the directors of programs, many of whom then consulted with their own faculty members. On April 20th, we consulted with the chairs on budgetary matters directly and with the program directors. On April 27th, we consulted with master planning on budgetary issues. At a meeting on April 30th, we consulted with the full CAP, which is all of the chairs, plus master planning. All of the program directors and union representatives were also there. At a meeting yesterday, May 11th, we consulted with chairs and gave them an update on the latest information we had about the budget. And today, after this meeting, we've scheduled at 4:30 an additional consultation with master planning. And out of a commitment to shared governance, we've invited the full faculty council, including chairs and union representatives, to attend that meeting. I am deeply committed, as I've talked to the chairs repeatedly about, I'm deeply committed to transparency and trust and shared governance. I worked with and through the chairs and deans to develop a plan for possible cuts, given the extraordinary, exceptional, and unprecedented fiscal situation we are facing. We did not act without engaging faculty, and we would not do so. I want to assure everyone and underscore that I've been hearing from you. I've been listening to the feedback the administration has received. I appreciate everyone who has reached out and commented to me or to another member of my administration who has signed a statement of principles, who has issued a demand. I hear you. I've tried to be responsive to your requests, and I deeply appreciate and believe in your engagement in this process. I want to continue to listen. I want to take in your thoughts, especially in the meeting we've got coming up, the consultation we've got coming up. I want to reflect carefully on them, and I want to continue to hear from you throughout this process because as we all, well, maybe we don't all know, I certainly know, Alan and I know, I think many of you suspect this is the beginning of a much longer process, a much longer dialogue about the budget challenges that this institution faces and will continue to face in changing ways. Today's Faculty Council meeting is a governance meeting. It's not a town hall, and I'm not going to treat it as such, therefore. If there are comments about the budget, I will certainly listen respectfully. I will take notes, but I won't respond here in this forum, in this governance meeting. If you'd like to engage in a dialogue, a consultation, I want to do that at the budget town hall with master planning, to which I have invited members of the Faculty Council. I've called for this additional meeting out of, again, a strong commitment to shared governance and a desire to hear from additional faculty leadership, which you all represent. And I look forward to hearing from you and having a frank and candid discussion there. And I want to thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you very much, President Anderson. The first one on my list is Professor Hashmi. Please unmute her. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm on master planning, and I'm the program director of Women and Gender Studies, both just for another few weeks. I believe President Anderson when she says she's committed to transparency and to including us. However, consultation means us actually having information that we can use, that we can analyze, so that we can provide some useful advice. For that, we need complete information. We need information that gives a full picture and that allows us to participate in that process of analyzing that information. Because what happens then is that we come up with ideas and we're told that those ideas are based on incomplete or incorrect information, but that is the only information that we have. So that was just a comment on that issue. The question that I have is, we've heard a lot about the necessity for budget cuts, and I think nobody is unaware that we are in a serious economic issue, in an economic crisis, and there are serious cuts that might have to be made. What I'm not hearing, and what I have not heard at all in the several meetings that I've been at, is what is the pedagogical rationale behind these cuts, right? When we say 25% cuts across the board, that is treating everyone equally, but we know that equal treatment is not equitable treatment. These cuts are not going to affect everyone equally. There has to be some vision behind this. What are we trying to protect? What are we trying to save here? We have a strategic plan. I have heard no mention of that strategic plan. We have, when chairs try to offer a pedagogical rationale for why certain courses need to be preserved, they are told that they are trying to protect their own special interests, or they think their department is exceptional. That is not true. Chairs are charged with protecting the interests of their faculty and their department, but they're also trying to explain why we need certain programs of study to fulfill the mission of Brooklyn College, right? When we look at what is coming down the pike, what I'm hearing makes me really worry that we're going to end up providing a bridge education for middle class and upper middle class students who are going to transfer out, while our own students and our part-time faculty are going to be left in the dust. I want some reassurance that that is not going to be the case, that CUNY is thinking about this, that CUNY cares about this, and that CUNY has a vision for how they're going to maintain that commitment to diversity that we talk about so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Este is next. Please unmute him.
Yes, it's customary that the communication from the administration happens during faculty council. Customary but not required. I just find it interesting that you know, the point about transparency and discussion with faculty and such, you know, where we have a modicum of that during our faculty council meetings, you know, governed by open meeting law, are recorded and open to the public, in this case, live streaming. But instead, that usually short but somewhat vigorous back and forth has now been put off to a meeting that occurs after this meeting, that's accessible through yet another link, and is not so subject to open meeting law, and not subject to being recorded, and not subject to being open to the public. So I just have to say I don't have confidence in the claim that full transparency is at work when even a modicum of some back and forth was entirely possible right at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Professor Carolina Beck-Munoz is next. Please unmute her. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. I have to say I agree with Ken on transparency. I really feel more than anything, I guess, disappointed that that you came into Brooklyn College on transparency, right? And this was the moment for that. Because it's great to consult with chairs, it's great to consult with master planning. I appreciate all of that. But we have a very large campus community, a campus community that includes a lot of staff who may be laid off, a campus community that includes students who have, you know, lots of questions about budget cuts. And, you know, one of my students recently said to me, the administration is asking us to boss up. They want us to enroll in summer classes. They want us to, you know, rise to the challenge and really, you know, get through this last week and graduate, but they're not bossing up, right? They're not challenging Cuomo. They're not rising to the occasion to protect this institution. And I think that's what we really need right now. We really need administrators at all levels to boss up and really confront Cuomo, force a wealth tax. This was done. We've seen, this is not unprecedented at CUNY. In the 1960s, the president of City College threatened to resign in protest. I know that it's not 1968 now, but I do think that the presidents could be acting collectively to plead for resources to explain how these cuts would impact the mission at CUNY. And I think we need more of that, not less of that at this very critical moment.
Thank you very much. Professor Shortell is next. Please unmute him. Go ahead, Professor Shortell.
Thank you. Thank you. The current budget crisis is just the latest budget crisis facing CUNY. And I've been at the college for almost 25 years, and the budget situation has gone from, varies from bad to catastrophically bad. So my question is really quite simple. At what point do the continual budget cuts break the institution? And President Anderson, will you tell us when we've reached that point?
Thank you very much. Professor Brain is next. Please unmute her.
So as a chair, I have been in many of those consultations, and I have appreciated the opportunity to dialogue and to hear from the university, from the administration about what is happening and to be kept up to date. What troubles me about it is that the response from the chairs has been remarkably consistent at every single one of those consultations. We have consistently communicated concern about the impact of the that the administration is asking us to take actions that will seriously impact the educational quality that we are able to offer to our students. And this is not defending, this is not even about defending particular courses. This is about being asked or told that we should engage in pedagogically destructive acts, like creating online classes that are too large, right? All of the best practices material on online pedagogy says small classes. It does not say 40 students, 50 students, 60 students. We are under enormous pressure to raise course caps, and our feedback and to cut sections. And our words have consistently been in these consultations, no, that will be so destructive to our students, our first generation students, our students with no internet access, our students struggling to survive. And that has not been, that consultation has not been reflected in the administration's actions. And that in particular, you know, I want to pick up on what Carolina was saying, that this is a moment to respond to our concerns about the destruction of good pedagogy through large classes and cutting sections. You know, that requires advocacy. It's not about subdividing the pie in different ways. It's about creating a bigger pie. And it's about what the presidents collectively of the CUNY campuses are willing and able to do together. Collective action is safer than individual action, and collective action is more effective than individual action. And the presidents need to say that, to stand together and tell the truth about what is needed to keep our campuses alive so that we don't break, as Tim says, so that we are able to offer the pedagogy that our students need in order to finish college, to be upwardly mobile, to move into the middle class, and to give back to our society.
Thank you. Before I entertain a motion to adjourn, allow me a last word. First of all, this is obviously the last meeting of the academic year. I just want to say that I am thrilled about how this faculty council has worked throughout this year and under these unbearably conditions that we're all working under. It's an honor to lead you and to be your chair. This meeting worked better than I had ever expected. I was expecting a disaster after item number 2. The main people to thank again are Andre G and Andre P, who have made it possible to run a meeting with 120, 125 people on it. You all contribute, everyone here contributed to this. I thank you. I wish you all health, safety among yourself and your family. Do your best, as I tell my students, to stay sane under these very difficult conditions. It's hard. Okay, as a paramedic, I can tell you it's hard. Have a wonderful end of semester. Have a great summer. I hope that by the time this fall rolls around, we will be back to some level of normal college academic behavior. Stay safe, enjoy. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn. I'm going to unmute everybody.
Watched it last night? Oh, okay. All right, we'll choose something else then.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so stopping the recording and live stream now.
Bye, everybody.
Summer.